Hello, 4th grade math. Today we're talking about lesson 76, naming fractional parts with decimal fractions, specifically looking at the hundredths. So if you review our decimal place values, we've got the tenths right after the decimal place and the hundredths 2 places after our decimal. And so what each of those numbers means is if we had a unit or a square or a rectangle or a circle divided into equal parts, if it was divided into tenths, then we would say that the shape is divided into 10 equal parts. If it's divided in by 100, or that would look like a 10 by 10 grid, or a square that is divided into 10 equal parts. And what that means is we can label each part out of 100. So that might look like this. If I were to shade one of these boxes, I'm shading 1 out of 100. And I could represent that as a fraction. I could write the number 1 over 100. Okay, pretend that looks like a 0. So 1 out of 100 boxes are shaded. So, or I could read that as 1/100th. And if I were to write that with my decimal, I would write that as 1/100th, so 0.01. Both represent out of 100 possible units, or possible squares in this case. So 1 shaded out of 100, which is 1 over 100. And I can also write that as my numerator, as my number in the correct place value. So in this case, the hundredths place value, or out of 100. Now, what the book is going to show you later is that I can also represent this same value as a percent. Percent meaning of each 100. So anytime I have a number and then a percent, it's saying you've got this amount out of 100 possible, okay? And I can write that as my number, again, the same number I use as my numerator and as the number in my decimal place out of 100. So it would be 1%, or 1 per 100, or 1 out of 100. So similar to when you get a grade in, let's say, math class, if you get a 97%, that would mean that you got 97 points out of 100 possible points.